Crypto adoption. How digital currencies transform local economies.
So welcome everyone. I think thank you for being part of this session. We're gonna talk about the adoption of digital currencies and crypto and how it's shaping our life, how it's impacting economies, and we have some of the best panelists here. So I'm not gonna do justice in introducing themselves. I will let them talk about themselves and the work they're doing, and then we are going to start the session. Okay? So I'll hand it over to Jasmine.
Good morning, everyone. I think it's still morning. Hi, how are you? My name is Jasmine, and I've been in the crypto space for 5 years. I used to be a banker, corporate as well as retail banker, and the crypto space is going to revolutionize financial services. And this is one of my passion because I believe that crypto will definitely change local economies from perspective of how we do business and when we do business. A lot of things are going to change. Over to you.
Great introduction, Jasmine. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invite again. And I'm from the Philippines, so I'm glad to represent the country. And I work with SurgePay and SurgeCoin. So one of the things we're doing is actually really working on helping local adoption, right? So I'm Francis, and I've been in the crypto space for the past 4 years. I've been in tech for over 15 years, so this is my industry, and I would love to contribute to blockchain and help everyone around. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Zavier, CEO of Xprizo. Nearly forgot my company then, kidding. But I've been in the crypto blockchain space for almost 11 years. And I also believe, with passion that technology plays a major part in how we are now evolving as human beings, not just through tech, but through AI and everything else. My passion is obviously financial services. My company does PSP, and we are for the financially excluded people of the planet. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And Lucifer is just my nickname. Thank you.
Glad to have you all. So I am Jaydeep. So I've been having almost 21-year plus experience in gaming. Primarily worked for various European and Asian companies. And presently I've also worked as a regulator in one of the jurisdictions in India. So I more work as a consultant. But as you know, there is a very strong overlap between gaming and crypto. And that's where my interest comes in crypto. So I'm going to start the discussion with the simple thing that how is crypto helping in financial inclusion? So if we can start talking about that, and also how it's going to help the cost of transactions, because I think these two things matters a lot. What we have seen over the years is the traditional banking solutions that are there have become extremely expensive. So how are this crypto or adoption of crypto will help us in these two areas? If you can start from Jasmine.
What a great question. Thanks, Jaydeep. I've been a banker for more than 20 years before I stepped out of crypto. And one of the reasons why I stepped out of banking, despite the fantastic fat pay, is because my pay comes from every single transaction that the bank charges. And that transaction needs to go up higher and higher every year because guess what? I need my increment, my bonus, my promotion. And that's the industry that banking is today. Now, how do you reduce the cost of an industry that is more than 100 years old, where every new infrastructure that is going to be put in is going to be a higher cost to the consumers? And this is where the blockchain disruption comes. It's amazing. And Bitcoin started that, but it's not going to end in Bitcoin. First thing on financial inclusion, the banks, through regulators, rightly or wrongly, exclude a lot of people. Now, the banks exclude a lot of customers because of profitability. If the bank cannot make money out of holding your account, it's not going to want you as a customer. It's got nothing to do with bad financial behavior or credit worthiness. It's just bottom line driven. As a result of that, a lot of segment of population is not included in the financial system. And what does that mean? It means that then they cannot participate in the economies of things. That is unfair and it is unjust. But you cannot tell the banking system to change overnight. How do you tell people like me who used to work in the bank to not take a pay, to not have a salary, to not have my bonus. It's not possible. So this is where tech, like crypto, plays a huge role. Today, I can send you Bitcoin, I can send you Ethereum, I can send you XRP without the need of an intermediary party. That is cost. Because when somebody has to sit in between that to make sure that that transaction gets through, that person needs to be paid for their time, for their attention, for their skill. Now, when that is no longer necessary, that cost can come down naturally. So first thing, peer-to-peer transactions has the ability to reduce costs. Now, whether that cost gets passed out to you, where you are included on the transaction, that will take institutional change. And that's why we need DeFi. To a large extent, decentralized financing will open up more and more financial inclusion because it is no longer bottom line driven as a whole. And on a transactional basis, even if you pay 1 cent or 0.01 cent, it's enough because technology takes care of the rest of the cost. And that's how I believe this is going to totally revolutionize economies globally and locally.
Great answer. So I'd like to build on that actually. And one of the things that I really feel strongly towards is financial inclusion. I mean, coming from the Philippines, I know a lot of our countrymen are unbanked. And most of them are unaware because you need to fill up like 20 pieces of paper and all you want to do is put what? 1,000 pesos or something. And that's where the e-wallets came in. And of course, that's where crypto comes in next. And I believe what Jasmine is saying. However, of course, there has to be a middle ground, and that's why we need to build rails where there would be lesser intermediaries. And I believe that's where Remittance 3.0 comes in, where crypto rails will be built. And with crypto rails, it's just going to be probably for, in my opinion, country per country or one license holder to another. So the cost will be way down. And at the same time, it would be something that people could really use because it's going to be probably e-wallet based. So it's not going to be that hard. At the same time, the Philippines is known for being one of the biggest remittance senders from outside to the Philippines. And our goal, personally for me and our company, is to really at least get to 1%, where it's currently about 4.5% for the Philippines. And I believe this really pushes financial inclusion because, of course, when the cost is lower, a lot of things can be spent on better things. And I believe that's something that all of us here in the panel would want, right? So I think that's what's going to happen next, pretty much.
Well, what can I say? Great answers to a very, very difficult question. I'm not going to go the route these guys have done to answer the question. For me, it's personal experience. I'm born and bred in the UK, traveled the world, and I've spent time in Africa. I've spent a lot of time in the Philippines here, especially in the mountainous areas. So I know that when people say financial inclusion, for me it's about educating the masses, because without education, you cannot keep saying financial inclusion, because they need the thought of financial inclusion needs to sink into the individuals. So it's all about teaching them from a young age on how to adapt, not just financially, but through education as well. So yes, blockchain offers the new generation a new way of getting out of, I would say, poverty. But at the same time, we've got to make sure that the institutions that are involved, that play a key role in promoting education and financial stability, also understand the needs of the people. And coming from a very, I would say, very humble and poor background, I know it's very, there was times when I couldn't get a bank account. So who do I go to? My uncle, a moneylender, charging me extortionate amounts, his own nephew. But that's how things worked in those days. But now that I'm financially stable, I want to pass on the level of education that I received in order to be where I am now to the next generation. And I think that's the most important aspect. Thank you.
Thank you. I think great answers. I think one thing I'm going to touch upon, I think what Francis was probably saying, is I think crypto also helps in, it's basically borderless transactions, correct? And I think we are talking about education, we are talking about adoption of crypto for general masses. But one thing that I have seen, and please correct me if I'm wrong, one thing that I have seen is that is a lot of companies in this room and the floor below, they have already adopted crypto in a very big way because these are multinational companies with operating throughout the globe, and they have customers from one end of the globe to the other end, and they can be based anywhere. But they are using crypto as a mode of settlement for the dues that are coming to them. So at a business to business level, I think there is already a very strong adoption of crypto and crypto technology. But where do you see as this as a next step? Like, where do you think this borderless transaction can help us to reach out to the masses?
So for mass adoption, two things have to happen. One, as Zavier has correctly pointed out, education. The other thing that needs to happen is, to some extent, regulatory support. Without regulatory support, the mass adoption, the education, the assurance, and to some extent, a sense of guarantee that your transaction is not going to get lost in cyberspace and there is absolutely no recourse, that fear keeps people out of the ecosystem. So there's still a lot of fear in the space from the perspective of beyond the business to business. There is also the individuals and the retail transaction that needs to take on because people don't fully understand the space. Not everybody has the tenacity, the perseverance, or even the will to want to be educated. They just want the convenience of a transaction. So don't make me go through a PhD to learn how to use this technology to transact, but just give me a simple solution. So while we say UI, UX is important, and earlier panel said, but there is also a need to remove the fear in the space for the transaction, that if it gets lost, there is a form of recourse. So to me, these two things need to happen.
Going on to that, Jasmine, it's all about trust as well. So if, for example, you have a community that has no trust in technology, again, it boils down to education. So if you educate that community to understand what blockchain is, what crypto adoption is, how it can benefit them, and have a solution in place, a practical solution, not a solution on paper or whatever or on your screen, but a practical solution, that gives them the extra incentive to then go forward and promote the idea further along the line. So yeah.
Yep, so great answer on trust. I think trust is immediate. But the other thing that I think is important is practicality, as Jasmine has stated, that has to be simple. You know, I believe as a tech guy for a very long time, you only have 3 steps. You know, if it's only 3 steps to do things, it's easy. That's one for practicality. The number 2 thing is, what's my benefit, right? Like what happened here in the Philippines is, even if it was so hard to, you know, use Axie Infinity, but they were making money, right? So if I'm making money and I need money now and it's a pandemic, I do anything, right? I try to learn. So I think those things are important. And again, of course, it's also practical if it's regulated. You know it's safe. Oh, I don't have to think about it. I know it's pretty much like electricity where you click a button, you know, it turns on. It's not going to explode. So once we get to that level, or we're working to that level, then things would become more easier to adapt, in my opinion.
I think very good answers. I think one thing that I'm going to touch upon is obviously one thing that we know what crypto is known for is faster transaction. I think this is one thing that we have seen, that instantly funds can be transferred, whereas through normal banking channels, it can take days and sometimes weeks, depending on banking hours and holidays and things like that. Now, with this, I think, and another point I'm going to touch upon what Jasmine was saying is not everybody is very technology savvy. Not everybody is like a rocket scientist. So you need to create crypto solutions in a way that is almost as easy as PayPal or something that is very easy for the normal masses to use. Now, where do we think that, okay, we have all these benefits of crypto, which is lower transaction cost, faster transfer time and everything, but this technology barrier, is that a hindrance for adopting this solution?
Well, I mean, that's a two-way question, really, because, for example, if you're in a province here in the Philippines, the tech might play an important part, so you need to have stable internet, okay? But then if you're in the city, it's irrelevant because it's constantly flowing. So again, it's up to what Jasmine and Francis already discussed, is the institutions that are involved in delivering the services, the basic services in the community, to make things happen. So for people in the province or the villages or wherever in the jungle or wherever you are, for them to adopt crypto, as their main source of income and outcome, they need to have the technology in place. And without the government support or without backing off these crypto exchanges and industry, they're not going to get that. So it's for us, people that are already here at that level, to promote the exchanges, the companies that are adopting crypto, to place these tech hubs, whether they're mesh boxes or whatever, satellites, in certain areas, so that people can understand, adapt, and earn from it. So it's all about learning, earning, and adapting.
Francis? So when we talk about change, how do you change? How do you grow? You never grow in comfort, you grow in crisis. So how bad is the pain? During pandemic, the pain was bad. I needed money, so even though Axie Infinity was almost a master's degree, I'll go learn it. But in times of comfort, where, hey, I'm busy already doing this stuff, I don't want to hear about it. I just want to carry on with what I'm doing. So until that situation becomes painful enough, where you need to look for a way out, then you will. So while we are trying, the institutions that are bringing up the solutions are trying to educate, feed, and provide all the knowledge and wherewithal to use this technology, the individual and the institutions must feel the need, and in this case, the pain, to want to do the change. So that's my premise.
Perfect. I think we touched upon a little bit about regulation, and I think there is a session later on planned here which will more go into the regulatory aspects of it. But I'm going to very briefly say that the country where I am coming from, India, what the government of the day have done is they have used crypto, or they are treating crypto as an asset. And so what happens is that, like you have a stock market, you can buy shares, you can buy a cryptocurrency, and if it goes up in value, then you have to pay a capital gain tax on that, which is 30%. Now, though, and every time you do a crypto transaction, you have to pay a 1% tax on that. Now, though they may sound a lot, but it's actually a direction where the government of the day is adopting this technology. Now, they may not be wholeheartedly adopting it because they have not come up with a crypto, regulation or how to regulate crypto at all. All they have done is come up with a taxation on how to tax crypto. So this is like a first step towards regulation, I think. And I think few years down the line or a couple of months down the line, they may come up with actual regulation related to crypto. Now, how you see in the markets that you're operating, how is the regulatory aspects, or how is the regulators keeping up to the technology advancement? And are we able, is there any prohibitory tax also that government is putting, like the one that I mentioned in my country?
So if it's a 1% tax on value of transaction, I think that is a fair way of treating a transaction. Because I know from a banking point of view, that's not a cut across the line. So 1% of a million helps the institution make money. 1% of $10 helps the person who is transferring that money that the other guy needs, right? So whereas regulators adopting regulation that is just and fair, they are still themselves catching up, trying to understand how this technology will behave. More importantly, how the people that is using the technology will behave. And putting out equitable guidelines and policies to first encourage usage, second, enable growth. So where Malaysia, where I come from, I have to take my hats off to my regulators. They are observing. But they have put in certain guidelines very quickly to protect consumers on the ground, first of which is on the asset exchanges. So the recent 2022 burn, for the Malaysians who didn't run outside their regulatory space, they were kept safe. So there are pros and cons, but these guys were expensive, the centralized exchanges, and they were allowed to be expensive because they were first in the space. So there is always a balancing act on the two.
So currently here in the Philippines, I think it was mentioned earlier that they're drafting some rules, and I believe, if I'm correct, it's still a draft. They're planning to do a 15% capital gains tax on 2024, but of course, this isn't final, right? For at least for our market. But I think what's good about the Philippines is they're recognizing, like the need, and I believe that we're not in any way trying to ban crypto. And I'm actually for any taxation that would be properly set. Simply because, of course, if it's taxed, then it would be allowed, and a lot of our remittance cost, I believe, is taxing a 1% fee already is very low compared to maintaining it now at about 4 or 5%. So I'm really for the taxation here, and I believe that we're on the right track. And it's not yet implemented, but at least we already have a draft at the moment.
Okay, I mean, I agree with both Jazz and Francis here. Yes, taxation is a good way of making sure that the most vulnerable are also helped. However, when the governments and institutions decide to draft these legislation and regulations, they need to have people from the space itself helping them. Because if they use the normal financial methods that are in place now, down the line we're going to have a similar banking crisis in the crypto world as well. So, it's a hit and a miss, and it's a give and take. So from my perspective, if I go to a government or regulatory body, I want people that I'm talking to understand the space. If they have no idea what crypto is, what mass adoption is, then you're just beating your head against the wall. So for me, that's very important. But I do agree with the taxation element. Thank you.
So one thing that's come to my mind as you were speaking, now obviously, I think crypto technology is here to stay. That goes without saying. And I think most of the progressive countries in the world is in some form or shape is adopting crypto. Now, one of the things that crypto does, it gives both the sender and receiver the kind of sense of being anonymous. I think that's a key feature in being crypto, right? Using crypto solutions. Now, as early adopters of crypto, as some people who are very much involved in this, how you think that in the long run, because a lot of government concerns or regulatory concerns will be the misuse of crypto for drug use or for any other illegal activity. How, as an early adopters of crypto in your line of space that you're working, what kind of things that you have done or you have seen being done to stop this from happening?
So you're never anonymous in crypto, not unless zero knowledge proof is deployed on the chain. Let's just first make that very clear, right? You're pseudonymous, but you still can be tracked by your wallet, right? So that is something that we need to put in first. Now, crypto being used in the space, it's not so much of an issue in terms of bad actors trying to hide, because a lot of analysis, a lot of products and solutions have already come out in terms of catching bad actors, simply because there is technology behind it now. Now, one of the things that I do like about crypto is it helps with fundraising. So when you talk about how crypto can help local economies, there is a bracket of people, businesses, down to MSMEs that cannot have access to fundraising because such stringent policy and guidelines towards public fundraising, even for P2P lending and all that. So this enables it to some extent, and I think that will be a real game changer for local economies.
So yeah, for me, being in tech for a very long time, they say it's anonymous, right? But it's been around forever. Bad actors can be in any type of fiat system. I mean, it's simply saying, if you're saying you can still be tracked, right? For like a decentralized wallet, sending to another one, saying, hey, I have cash, I put it somewhere, I have cash on my wallet, I gave it to another person. That's the same thing, right? So if somebody saw you, it's the same thing. So I don't believe that anything changed. Yes, it's an added option, just like any financial, availability, right? So I don't believe the bad actors are, getting an advantage here. In fact, as Jasmine is saying, it's actually easier to track than, running around with whatever currency or gold or items that, we don't know in the back of a truck, right? Here, at least you can see wallet addresses. Then at least that it's getting somewhere, right? So as long as, you have access to that blockchain. So I believe that nothing has pretty much changed since the dawn of time, and where money is, bad actors will be there, and they've always been here anyway.
I agree with both my panelist colleagues. I mean, there's nothing more to add to that, especially, Francis hit the point on the head. Yeah, there will be scammers out there that will try and take advantage. But now that technology is evolving, we can counteract that. So anonymity is, I would say, it's impossible. We'll always be there. You cannot be anonymous in any form or part on the blockchain, whether it's decentralized or centralized.
Thank you. I think we are almost coming to an end. So if anybody have any questions, we'll be free to ask. And I think we have a lovely panel here. They're very knowledgeable, obviously. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay. I think we have shared everything to them, so they have no questions at all. But I think we have thank you everyone for the session, for the discussion. I think please feel free to come up to us and talk to them. They're very knowledgeable. If you have any questions, please use this opportunity to network. I think that's where we are here for. This is a lovely event, and I think please use your time here to meet everybody here and talk. Any query you have, we'll be more than happy to answer. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.